Hello and welcome to the next G8X series how-to video from Carbonwurks. This time we're looking at the front end of the car again. We're going to fit one of our three-piece front splitter kits. This in particular is our DTM kit. So you've got the aprons there and the centerpiece there. It's going to add quite a bit of dimension to the front of the car. It's going to be quite aggressive, so we're looking forward to seeing that on with the rest of our kit. As with all our how-to videos, I'll run you quickly through the tools I'm going to use. So I've got equipment for taking off the wheels and putting them back on, torque wrench, gun, the usual things. In terms of the actual splitter going on itself, going to need an Allen key set, an 8mm ratchet spanner, and then also equipment to take the arch liners out, which on this particular car is 10mm, but on earlier cars will be 8mm. And that's about it. There's trim tools and the usual alcohol wipes for prepping the surface and removing the original parts, and also a hot air gun for setting off our high bond tape, and to finish up, if needed, a light detailing spray, something to take off any grubby marks. As per previous videos, with this kit we're hoping to launch an Amazon shop, which will link you into example versions of some of the kit that we use to help you on your way with getting this job done. So back to it. Today's job, front splitter. I'm going to get stuck into it. First things first, as with some of the other videos, wheel off, arch liners out. So I'll get cracking and we'll bring in some B-roll on that, show you where we need to go. There's a couple of options on how this can be done, depending on how much of a lucky devil you are as to whether or not you have a full kit or just a splitter going on. But we'll talk you through that shortly, and Tim will splice in the relevant bits of video. So some of you might be wondering why it is that we need to remove so much just for a front splitter kit. The reason why is, for our splitters you need to remove this factory BMW apron panel here, which unfortunately has a fixing at the back end, which we'll show you in due course. But for now, I'll whip the wheels off both sides and the front section arch liners as well. So first step of any of our splitter installs is to remove the original aprons. So the preliminary steps for that is wheel off, arch liner off. Now probably the most fiddly part of either splitter installation is to get this silver bolt here that goes downwards into the end of the apron removed in order to pull this apron off. I still can't quite understand why BMW in their infinite wisdom have done it this way, but basically all I can seem to do is to spread the inner skin and the outer skin like that, get your 8mm ratchet spanner in there and back it off to undo it. It does have a slot for you to be able to push it out, so I've left it a few turns undone, and once we've got the remaining fixings underneath I might be able to tip it out. So that's what I'll look to do on there. You can either spend some time trying to figure out yourself why they've done it, or just look at big bad carbon brakes instead, which is what I've been doing for the last 10 minutes. So one thing that Tim has just reminded me in regards to this interesting bolt here is that if you are one of the fortunate people to be fitting a whole kit to this car, then whilst the bumper is off, or the ducts or the grille, and the skin's removed, you've got easy direct access to this bolt to remove it and leave it out ready for the installation of your splitter. So Tim's got a bit of video on that, he's going to splice in, well remembered. I'm going to move on now to removing the fixings underneath. So just a quick point we're going to pick up here whilst we're mid-filming. This car is having a full package, so if you're lucky enough to be in the same position, this might help you out. With the bumper off, removing these factory quarter trims on the lower front bumper is actually a lot easier whilst these trims are all removed. So there's one 8mm screw here which bolts down from the top. It's a little bit inaccessible really when it's bolted to the car. It can be done, but it's quite difficult, so I can't really understand quite why they've done it this way, but that is the way it's been done. So if you're in this position, you can unscrew that 8mm screw, leave it out, which means then when you come to remove this quarter trim, it will pop straight off and you're in a position to refit our new carbon splitter, whatever variant you happen to have, and then reinsert this screw afterwards and you're good to go. So the remaining fixings on the apron can be found directly underneath here. Some of you may recognise them from some of our other how-to videos, but you've got 3 trim clips which have got push-in centres to be removed with your trusty trim tool, and another trusty 10mm tool to remove the bolts here and here. So I'm just going to do that now. 2, 3, and then the 10 mils. So that's the trim fixings removed. Now, what you should be able to do, if you can get behind it, maybe with the use of a trim tool, is gently pull on the apron until it disengages from the 3 tabs on the top here. Having just repeated this process again, I've had to remove said inconvenient little screw completely. So if possible, where possible, the most advised process for me to avoid having to bend and stretch plastic things back here to get access to this would be to have the bumper off and to do it with that all completely removed, which is a lot more work but less risk in terms of things happening with the car that we don't want them to. So anyway, that's now removed, and this can now be removed because there's nothing remaining holding it in. So as before, I've clipped it back in cunningly, but just a gentle pull on the panel and disengages those clips, and then pull it diagonally out towards the corner of the car, and that's it. What we will need to retain from this part is this little white clip here. That will get moved over to our new carbon apron, and that's just a case of pulling that off and slotting it onto the new part. Okay, so original aprons are off. We're now at a position to start looking to fit our splitter kit. What I can tell you is we've actually just taken the time to do a very last bit of development on how this kit fits, trying to make it as easy as possible for you guys or anyone else that might be fitting it, as well as getting the best fit and finish that we can. So the result of that is the connecting faces between the 3 parts. Well, there's 2 connecting faces. They've now got a riv nut and bolt connection, so that can be done up tight to nip them down nice and solid together. Also, we've just added this foam tape here, which is going to bridge the gap and protect the paintwork from rubbing, which is great. And I think that's all about there is in terms of the change, but we're really happy that we've done this now, so we know every kit that goes out is going to be spot on. In terms of the next steps, what we need to do is prep the bumper on the car to receive these new parts. So what I'll do is I'll bring this over with us. We need to take an apron. Essentially what you need to look at here is the fact that one of the best things about this product is that it uses all the original fixing points on the car, so no extra holes, no extra screws, nothing being drilled into the car. What you need to do, some of the original fixings that we took out to remove the first apron can go back in before we fit this kit. So it uses 2 of the screw locations, which are here and here, and only 1 of the original trim pop locations, which is this end one. So there's 2 of those here and here, which can be refitted to secure. It's still securing the inner skin of the bumper to the outer skin of the bumper, so put them back in and it keeps them there should you ever want to return to stock. And then subsequently what we need to do is remove the row of screws that hold the under tray to the bumper across the front here, which is both for the very end of this apron and the other side apron, but also the centre section of the splitter relies entirely on these screws, as well as a bit of double-sided tape. So I'll do that now, and the last thing that I'll do is also prep the paint with an alcohol wipe or similar, ready to take the adhesive tape, and then we'll be ready to offer up some parts. So with everything prepped and ready, the last bit of that, as I mentioned before, what I tend to do is peel the end of the tape, stick it back down or fold it over, and then once the part's offered up to the car, it's there ready for you to peel off and then just offer up. Saves getting into a sticky situation where it gets all caught up, stuck in the wrong place. So as I happen to have it in my hand, it's because it's the first part to go on the car. So what I would advise you start with is putting the centre section of the diffuser up, securing again with some of the original bolts to the original locations, and what we'll do is we'll leave this only loosely fitted so that there's room for adjustment when the other parts are subsequently fitted up. So you can either just offer it up hand tight, just nip it down to the point where you're able to slide it in and out, as there is enough leeway in the holes where it fits to give adjustment for the best possible fit and finish of the part in its entirety. So that's on, leaving it with some wiggle room so that once I've got the 2 aprons offered up, we can make sure it's all fitting perfectly before bolting it right down and tightening it right up. So now we're ready to fit the aprons. We'll show you on the one side, the other side will obviously be exactly the same. As mentioned earlier, it retains the standard clip here on the end, so you swap that over from the original part. And then the only other thing to do is Alex has supplied it with the bolt screwed into the riv nut, which makes sure it doesn't end up being lost anywhere in the packaging. So take that out and then you're in a position ready to fit. In terms of fitting it to the car, start with the outer end first, so you need to tuck this clip in here. Excuse me. So that gets tucked in here at the end. Offer it in, it should all clip into place nicely, and then that's it, almost ready to go. And what I'll do at this point, so making sure it's located in at the end, you can take the new screw that secures the two halves of the panel together, and then going up from underneath, you should be able to find the hole for it and loosely screw it in to the riv nut. So that's that loosely screwed in. Again, leaving it loose to allow for some adjustment. What I'll do now is fit the other side so that we can get an overall picture, everything lined up, centralised nicely. So with the three parts loosely installed, we can now look at starting to return some of the fixings in place. So there's a mushroom clip, trim clip, whatever you wish to call it, to be inserted, one at each end. So the original fixings, push the outer body in, and then once it's all the way home, you can push the centre locking pin in. That should hold the ends of the aprons in. So there's one each side. That's that done. At this point, it could be handy if there's one available to have a glamorous assistant. What we're going to do is push these outer aprons into the bumper or in towards the body of the car, and then there's two screws underneath that we need to insert, pin up to the bottom of the bumper, and that should hold it in good and tight. That's the bit with the glamorous assistant over and done with. So as you can see, I mean, the parts have got a really nice tight line to the bumper anyway. The main purpose of that rubber foam gasket is to protect the paintwork, especially a satin finish like this. The last thing we want, should down the line anything happen or change with the setup on the car, for you to take our parts off and there be a nice big rub mark through your paintwork. So just a few things left to do now. So you've got the Allen key bolts here, which are a 4mm Allen key between the two parts, or the three parts, two mating faces, one each side. They just need to be nipped up, and it does give you the opportunity to just line the parts up perfectly, make sure they're nice and flush, top and bottom and front, nip them up, one each side. You've got the screws underneath, but before you do those, peel the tape off. If it's a cold day, we advise using some heat. We have got a hot air gun down there. It's nice and warm in the workshop today, so we'll probably just peel the tape and send it straight up. But yeah, if it's a little bit cold, bit of extra heat on our tape, so onto the panel first. You have got the option to just push down a little bit, open up the gap, get some heat in there to get the tape nice and tacky, push it up, and then bolt up from underneath. Okay, so as you can see, that's the full splitter basically fitted now. There's a couple of screws to go in, which are our least favourite friends, BMW's Mr. Inconvenient bolts on the inside in the arch at the end of the apron. So I'll get to those now, and then at that point I'll be able to put the arch liners back in, wheels back on, and at that point we can finally put it on the ground and appreciate the splitter in all its glory. It's looking pretty good already. I think once it's down on the deck, it's going to look super aggressive. We'll be back in a second with it fully bolted up on the floor, ready to rumble. So as you can tell, car is back down on the ground, wheels fitted, wheel bolts torqued to factory spec, the important bit for your safety, and the splitter is on. And how good does it look? Okay, I can say for certain Dan's going to have to start taking care of a sleeping policeman with this one. But it's all on there. We're happy with the fit and finish, really good tolerances all the way through. And coupled with the rest of the package on the grille and duct front, it looks awesome. So that's it for the splitter tutorial. So it's all on, it's all fitted. This is our DTM splitter. There is another variation, which is our CSL one. Slight differences in the way that they bolt together because the mating face is angled the other way. But it's fairly self-explanatory. Hopefully at some point soon we'll get the opportunity to fit one of those, maybe do another how-to or a specific clip just on the parts different to the CSL. But for now, I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching, and especially if you've made it this far. As usual, like, share and subscribe would all be greatly appreciated, and we'll see you on the next how-to.